welcome to the review segment of our show where we take you through the headlines. We will do international headlines as well, touch base on myjournline.com. So if you're just tuning in, you're welcome. Ben and I are going to take you through the papers. Ben will start. Which paper are you starting with, Ben?
I'll kickstart with the Daily Statesman this morning. And on the front page, it says, Akufo-Addo urges Ghanaian businesses to take advantage of AFCFTA. Then there is NPP is number one on ballot paper. That's got a lot of people excited. Then Ghana first in Africa, third in the world in COVID-19 management. That is according to a Chinese survey, actually. It's called the Yikai. And I'll be sharing my thoughts on that. A good step, positive one for Ghana, but I have my own concerns about, that entity that conducted the study. Where do we start from with you? The Daily Graphic?
Yes, the Daily Graphic newspaper. Here's what's on the front page. Battle lines drawn, 12 candidates pick positions. And they've got pictures of President Akufo-Addo and former President, flag bearer of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, number 1 and 2 on the ballots, as was revealed yesterday on the front page of the paper. Also, government revives affordable housing scheme, 200 units to be delivered yearly. 2017-2018 Agric Census report launched. Also another story in the paper today. So that's what it looks like, the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. In the center spread, there is a special feature. It says a must action, sustaining good hand hygiene during after COVID-19 pandemic. So that's what's in the center spread of the paper. And on the back page, President inaugurates Naval Training Command in Volta region, says Ghana deserves better maritime industry. That full story is on the back page, occupying the entire back page of the Graphic newspaper.
Let's take you now to the Custodian newspaper, and it says, ignore Mahama on election rigging plot, easy to Ghanaians. And that's one story that hopefully I'll get into. Now, the EC's chair has been talking about the matter and saying that, look, there's transparency and all of that in the process, and there is no cause for talking about any rejection of the ballot come election day. But take advantage of, AFCFTA. Akufo-Addo tells Ghanaian businesses. Then President's strong leadership key to COVID-19 success. I was just letting you know about that story, that report from Yikai earlier. Then we're investing in infrastructure, not rearing flying guinea fowls. Baumia replies, Mahama, it appears this guinea fowl thing is not going out of our political space anytime soon. NPA replies, tanker drivers over Hassan Tampuli. And when you go to the back page of this paper, The Custodian, it says, Akufo-Addo commissions Naval Training Command in Volta region. Mama V.
Let's do the Finder. Front page of the Finder says, Volta chiefs praises Akufo-Addo as competent, compassionate, and visionary leader. Also, government will support businesses to take full advantage of AFTA, according to President Akufo-Addo. But the banner headline really is this one, NPP 1, NDC 2, GUM 3 parties express satisfaction with various theories. President Akufo-Addo's strong leadership key to COVID success, according to Information Minister. We're investing massively in infrastructure, not rearing flying guinea fowls. Dr. Baumia replying, Mahama, not sure exactly what former President Mahama said, but that's a jab right there. Maybe there will be another.
There are a number of things that could trigger those replies. You know, when you're talking of achievements, they will always go back to, but we did free SHS. And in our time, there were no flying guinea fowls. So it could be anything, actually.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for the Finder. There are plenty of other stories that you can look at if you're
But
interested.
Mama V, do you believe in omens? Do you believe in
I don't know.
signs and
I don't know.
wonders?
I don't know. I believe in signs and wonders.
Yes,
believe
in the
grace.
political space.
I believe in the grace and favor. Yeah.
Well, yesterday we all saw what Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Peter Boamo Tukuno, his antics, if you want to call it that, and I found it a bit. I thought he was being unduly aggressive at a point, and you
at the beginning of the process.
Yes,
okay.
but I feel he had a point, but the way he conveyed the point was the problem. But do you believe in those? Because number one, I mean, everyone is talking about it. Number one, it means we're going to win. Number two, it's going to be the second coming. And now people are even bringing in national science and math quiz and saying that PRESEC won in 2008 and the MPP lost, and it's going to happen again.
I think it's for the fun of it. I mean, it helps with the campaign. It helps to get people interested in the election proper. Right. I don't think it translates into anything. I agree, though, that the fact that you're first and second, you grab people's attention real quick. So if you go and you're voting, especially when there are 12 of them on the ballots, it makes it easy for you to be identified. But apart from that, I don't know.
Anyway, I don't know how Alfred Walker would feel being at number 12, but the publisher, new publisher.
Which is also easy. Just direct people. Tell them to ignore everybody and just go down there.
Just go to the bottom. It works as well. So Nana picks 1, John picks 2. That's the new publisher. Government adopts COA mixture after FDA approval. COA has gone through quite a lot in terms of its products. And then Roberts shoot man dead. Now, I'll just say this very quickly. There's another paper, I think it's the Custodian newspaper. It talks about a gospel artiste who actually was robbed on the 20th. Celestine Donko.
Yeah.
And when I read the story as well of this gentleman who had also been gunned down, the security situation. So yes, we're talking about our members of parliament, ministers, and all of that, but the ordinary people are also dying. What happens to them? A concern on my mind.
Good question there. The Daily Dispatch newspaper is the next paper that we're going to. And then we'll come to this other very sad incident of a church building collapsing. We'll give you the latest information and share what we have with you. But let's do the Daily Dispatch newspaper front page. Apart from MPP and NDC presidential candidates, the total votes of the 10 other presidential candidates will not exceed 4%. That's Benefsin making that prediction there. Is it a prediction? Well, full story on page 12. Somebody did post and asked, why do they go through all this when they know that they won't get anything? Like, it will be insignificant. But I guess we also appreciate the other. For instance, Ikedonko is so excited, even being on the ballots, coming this far, trying and getting here in the end. Somebody would ask, what is in it for her?
Could I hazard an answer to that?
Oh, yeah.
Political entrepreneurship.
Oh, okay. Well, but she's satisfied. So if it makes her happy.
Yeah, she's able to pay with her cocoa business money.
All right. Also on the front page, Asiedu Bekwing asks John Mahama, who will pay the private school teachers if you include private schools in free SHS? All old dam sites in northern region will be cleared, according to the regional minister. They seem to know exactly what they want to do around this time. You know, when it's getting to the end of the 4 years, then we get really creative. Anything is possible. It can be done. That's it for the Daily Dispatch newspaper.
Let's quickly go to the Ghanaian Times newspaper. It says, so on the front page, we'll support businesses for the AFCFTA. It appears to be a replication or duplication of stories across board. COA mixture FDA cooperation yields results. NPP picks first, NDC picks second slots for December 2020 polls. But when you go to page 3, again on the security beat, yes, we're talking about the 36-year-old man murdered in Kumasi by unknown assailants. But there's this other story. Chinese woman shot and robbed at Ahonjo. And the story talks about how 2 suspected armed robbers in Ahonjo, Kumasi, yesterday actually... It's a terrible situation. You see, we keep reading of these instances.
And killed?
Shot and robbed at Ahonjo.
Oh, shot and robbed.
She made it away with her life, just as Madam Donko did as well. But the problem with security in the country, I think we're downplaying it in many ways when it comes to the ordinary citizen. Of course, we know that even when it comes to policing, you know, the numbers are not anything close to what they should be. I think we have a deficit of around 27,000 per UN standards. And that's something that we should be seeking to close a gap for the ordinary citizens to have some security in the system, leading to elections and all of these things happening. It's not just the politician we should be thinking.
You know, and I guess that's why we get upset, really, when an incident happened involving a member of parliament and quickly You see the interior minister go to parliament, and then they just reach an agreement and something is done. It's not because we hate our members of parliament. After all, they are our representatives. But the fact is, what happens to them also happens to us. Yeah. It happens to us even more because we've had a lot of people being robbed. Look at this incident that happened in Kumasi just yesterday. We're also talking about Celestine Donko, who shared her experience on Facebook. So there's a broader conversation or an issue of security generally. But we can't have our interior ministry only pay attention to the concerns, the security concerns of Parliament. It must be all of us as well. And this is a very crucial time. And it's just that which people get upset about, you know. And we shouldn't get it wrong. We have to talk about what concerns us. People are traveling every day and they come across different issues. Let's do the Daily Guide real quick. Front page of the Daily Guide. Lordina is traumatized, says Mahama. Well, that was in that interview with Asempa FM. Well, maybe I should say Adum FM, Adum Television, and then Asempa FM. But there's a quote, really. Let's put it in context. So according to former President Mahama, there were all sorts of falsehood peddled against his wife when the NDC was in power, and that has made her take a back seat. So here's a quote, and this was being translated in English. She was there when we launched the manifesto and other things. She's given me the appropriate support from the back. And then he goes on to say, but part of it is that when we were in government, a lot of things were said about her that were not true, a lot of lies. She was a bit traumatized by the experience, so she has decided to take a slightly back row and let me do my politics so she can give encouragement in the background. So we won't go through that kind of experience again. Then there was a question of what happens if he wins the December 7 elections. And again, here's the quotes, but again, it's also being translated. When we win, she will play a more back role, unquote. There's a lot more to that conversation. You can grab the paper and read. Also, slain MP's wife files papers. Sanitation Ministry evacuates dump sites. COA boss commends FDA. And when this issue first started, I guess I was one of those who said, listen, FDA has our general interests at heart. You might want to think all you like, but they're doing this for our good. And it was, you can't fight the regulator. You must work with the regulator. In the end, you see that COA is commending FDA. So if you took sides, then you see where you will be right now. They did it for, you know, the general interest. I say it, and I'll say it again. It will be difficult for the Food and Drugs Authority to do a total recall, like of all products.
Indeed.
Because they will just take some batch and recall. But if they're recalling all batches, then there must be a critical issue there. And that's what they did. See, we've come and we've resolved this issue. And
that actually brings to mind, you know, the ANAS expose when it comes to quacks in COVID-19. So it is indeed for our benefit, because imagine the number of people who probably had been exposed when it comes to all of those drugs. The final newspaper I'll look at is the Business and Financial Times. Some of the stories are repeated, so I'll not go to them, but it says, President inaugurates Governing Board of RTI Commission. All aged dump sites in Northern Region will be cleared as emergency national refuse evacuation exercise starts. And there's also government targets 40% reduction in housing deficit. That's according to Atachia, the sector minister. But I'm sorry, it appears when it comes to some of these matters, there's been a lot of talk and no walking of the talk. In, you know, successive administrations, we all see them, the housing projects that are gathering dust. On the back page, salt mining receives major boost as Adan chiefs resolve differences, and WAPCO holds free eye screening care for Pung and Tema Manghian residents. So those are the stories in the Business and Financial Times.
Last newspaper, you've got a last one?
No, that the Business and Financial Times was the last one.
All right, the Republic Press will be the last one that I would look at. Auditor General's woes not over as board commences probe into 2.1 million Ghana cedis and 199,000 US dollars foreign travel cash. I think we talked about this a bit yesterday. Also lit Infantiman MP's widow files nomination. Ekufuado is number 1 as Mahama gives hot chase at number 2. Apostle J. dodges police prosecutor. You are a competent, passionate, visionary leader, voter chief to President Akufo-Addo. So that's how the front page of the Republic Press looks like. These are the stories making headlines. And then on the back page, they've got the presidential candidates and their positions on the ballot sheets.
I guess we're going to delve into the stories now.
Yes,
and I will start with the Daily Statesman newspaper. And since we're talking security, I guess my focus is on that this morning. On page 7, it says driver jailed 30 years for robbery. So it's not all bad. There are positives to this as well. So Issa Idrisu, a driver, was on Monday this week sentenced to 30 years imprisonment by an Accra Circuit Court for robbing a woman of her car, keys, and 2 mobile phones at gunpoint at Bawe in Accra. Now, Idrisu, in his robbery attack, stabbed one Theophilus Petete, the husband of the complainant, with a knife on his chest. He was held on the charge of conspiracy, attempt to rob, robbery, causing unlawful harm, and possession of arms and ammunition without lawful authority. It said that when the law wants to deal with you, you will actually receive so many charges that there's little room to wriggle your way out. So that's the story there, at least some positives when it comes to security. But finally, on that same page, page 7 of the Daily Statesman, Cordeo equips coordinators for election 2020. We're all concerned about that. We want peaceful, transparent, free and fair elections. Now, the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers has launched a 3-day national training of trainers workshop for its regional coordinators ahead of the 2020 general election. The workshop is supported by the US aid, and it goes on and on. I just had to mention that because all of their activities, Star Ghana, Cordeo, all of these entities, Imani and the rest, also help as we gear up toward the election. So good news from that angle, Mama.
Yeah, I want to talk about the church building that collapses, a 3-story church building belonging to the Church of Promise, Church of Prosperity at Achim Batebi in the Asene Manso across the districts of the Eastern region. It collapsed on Tuesday. We're showing you some pictures now. Adom FM's reporter Kwesi Azor said he saw the mortal remains of the deceased. So one person, as of yesterday at least, had died. Some 62 persons were believed to be conducting a prayer service after hours of fasting when the building, still uncompleted after 28 years of its construction, collapsed. Now, Kwesi indicated that the voices of those trapped inside could be heard, with some screaming for help. A bulldozer was on site to move the wreckage so that lives could be saved. And he said a joint police and military team, as at the time that he reported, were on the scene. Some survivors, we're told, are receiving treatment at the Achim Oda Government Hospital. We'll get our correspondent Kofi Sial to give us the very latest. How did this all end last night? But this is a very tragic incident. Church building coming down on worshippers on Tuesday.
Very, very, very sad development, Mavi. And two very interesting things. Now, they were actually gathered there, fasting and praying for their founder and leader. So it was a spiritual exercise. But look, you must always take security. You must always consider that. Now, this building, my concern here, the building had been uncompleted for 28 years. And I feel they just took things for granted. Do you remember TB Joshua's church? When,
yes.
It caved in. So yes, you're praying, God is concerned about you, but don't forget, you must do what must be done for your own safety.
Let's do myjoyonline.com, and then we will also briefly talk about the situation in Nigerians and share some pictures with you. But on myjoyonline.com, it's number 1 for NPP, number 2 for NDC on election 2020 ballot paper. It's our biggest story, really, in Ghana today. The balloting yesterday and the placement of the political parties and the only independent candidates that we have going into the election. Now, this is a story that inspires, really. First-class graduate rejected by Ghana School of Law becomes Doctor of Law. You've got to read her story if you haven't been following. I remember speaking to him once here on the AM show. So congratulations to Theophilus. We never organized meeting where NIA official was killed, according to the Peace Council. Now, this was also a story that was making rounds, that somebody had been killed during a peace council meeting. Apparently, that is not true. Robbing the poor, how LBCs are illegally renting certification licenses to businessmen. And if you missed the documentary, kindly read the story on myjoyonline.com. My son might have been killed in police custody, mother of prime suspected Professor Bennett's murder. So whilst the family lawyer of this gentleman is asking, is saying that, well, the police would do an autopsy. If they are not satisfied, they would ask for an independent one to be conducted. The mother says they had interacted just a day before. I think he was in court on the Thursday, and he was looking perfect. And for them to suddenly hear that he had died, they suspect he might have been poisoned. So lots of things coming out of this, and we will see what the autopsy report would reveal. But in the meantime, we've been assured that his death will not disturb the ongoing case. Number two, let's look at what former President Mahama is saying. Election 2020, number two means the second coming of Mahama. Oh, well, that's Peter Otokono there. We brought you details in our AM News. Well, plenty more stories related to the elections. You can always go to myjoyonline.com. We've had a viewer send me a message and calling on our president, who is chairman of ECOWAS, to speak on this matter, and making reference to the fact that he's spoken previously on other matters, some things happening even in the US, and they want him to speak on this matter. So we'll be following this closely. But before we take a breather and bring you sports, what is the role of the church when it comes to politics and, most importantly, elections? Is the church well equipped to execute its role and all the nuances that come with it? How influential is the church when it comes to shaping the democratic fortunes of our country? This Sunday, the 25th of October 2020, your radio for discerning listeners, Joy 99.7 FM, as always, will provide the platform and lead the conversation with the various faith bodies and religious leaders on their preparedness for election 2020 in a forum dubbed Election 2020, the role of the church. Speaking will be Archbishop Philip Name, President, Ghana Catholic Bishops Conference, Bishop Samuel Noy Mensah, Executive Member, Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council, Bishop Benny Wood is President, Concerned Clergy Association of Ghana, Reverend Dr. Cyril Fayose, General Secretary, the Christian Council of Ghana. The date is Sunday, 25th of October at 1 p.m. Venue, the Royal House Chapel, Ahimfie. It will be live on Joy FM and the Joy News channel right here. Your host is Pastor Atwaka. For further inquiries, kindly call 0302-216-540. All COVID-19 protocols will be observed. Stay for sports.